Hello, today I'm going to be trying to show my kids how to make a pie. And today I've chosen a peach pie because it's one of my favorites and my family's favorites. So this is what we're going to do. Take some flour and flour your counter or board, whatever you're using. Take some pastry, enough for a bottom crust. And I would use this pie plate. This used to be my mother's, and it's had a lot of pies made in it, so it's a good one. So you take your dough. You need extra flour to add. Flour your pin, your rolling pin. Start in the middle of it and just trying to make it into a circle. So you see how you're doing it here. Then you need, my mom always used to pick it up. Some more flour there. Flour here. And carry on. Doing the same thing, rolling it out. And you want to roll it thin enough because you don't want a big chunky pastry. I always remember my home ec teacher telling us that a good crust, you should be able to flake at least 7 layers off of a baked pastry shell. So that was something that stuck in my mind. So you want to have it rolled so that it's fairly even. You don't want it too thick in the middle and too thin at the edges. You want to make sure you're trying to control it. All right. Then you can, if you want to, you can check and see that it's going to be big enough for your pie. Just make it out a little bit more here. Good. Okay. So now you're going to just fold it in half carefully. Put your pie plate down here. And then you're just going to lay it gently on there till it flops over. And my mom said, don't stretch it. You have to be careful with it. You don't stretch pastry because that wouldn't be good. You just kind of ease it into the pie shell, into the pie plate. And then kind of move your pastry so that it's sitting right down into along the, it's not corner, but around the edge, inside edge of the pie plate. Okay. I'm going to take, now my mom used to pick this up and take a knife and twirl this around and get the pastry off, the dough off. And I have not mastered that. So I take a knife and I just cut off because I like to leave a little bit extra, not right at the very edge. I leave a little extra so that I can use it to fold into the top crust. Thing about pastry that you have to try and remember is that you're going to make mistakes and it isn't going to be perfect at first. And I've made many a bad pie, but you just keep trying. Just keep trying. I know that was something I just wanted to master. And so I just kept working at it. So I encourage you to keep working at it. It would be nice to have my children carry on with the pie making because pies have always been a big thing in our household. Okay, so previously I cut up 5 cups of peaches, sliced them, peeled them, and sliced them. In order to get a good peel, they should be ripe enough. But then my mom used to fill up the sink of hot water and then put your peaches in there and just let them sit for a while and then they peel a little bit easier for you. So I've taken the peaches and then this is a cup of sugar in here and 3 tablespoons of flour, a teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg and just a sprinkling of salt. And then my mom used to take it, it's all mixed up together, and then take a few spoonfuls of it and sprinkle it into the bottom of the pie plate, of the pastry. Okay, so you've got it kind of like that. And then you take the rest of the sugar mixture and pour it onto the peaches. And then just mix them around so that all the sugar, they get coated in the sugar. Okay, now you're going to fill it up. Don't be stingy with the filling, but you have to watch. If you fill too much, then you're going to have a mess in your oven because it's going to go over the top. But I think this is probably going to be just right. Okay, so you want to just spread it around so that it fills the pie opening here. Okay. There. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of, dot it with butter or margarine, whatever you've got. Just a couple of teaspoons. There, that should be good. So now you've got your filling in your pie, like that. Now I'm gonna make the top crust. So you need more flour on the bottom. And flour again on your pin. And try not to have too many cracks in it to start with, if you can. That's why I usually try to pat my dough before I start. I maybe should have done that with this one. Okay. So again, you're trying to just get it not too thin, not too thick. Try and make it fairly even. More flour. And you don't want your dough to be too dry or too moist. There is a happy medium. Now this pie cooks at 400 for, let me see how long, about 45 to 50 minutes, depending on how brown it is on the bottom shelf of the oven and the bottom rack. My mom always used to say, like, she would put it up to 425 before she put it in there and then turn it down as soon as she put it in the oven. And then always on the bottom shelf, because she said then the bottom pastry shell cooked better if you put it on the bottom shelf. All right, so we're good to go here. I'm gonna pick this up. This one's gonna break a little bit. Like I say, you make some boo-boos. Now we're gonna try and re-roll this one. Like I say, yes, you can help to repair. Try this. I think this one's too big. Gonna be a mess. Let's see how we do here. That is a mess. Too this off. Let's see if it works. In half, lay it down on the pie. There we go. Okay. And again, I just cut off some of the edges here. So that dough was probably a little too dry to start with, because it would have rolled nicer and it would have folded better and it would have put on the pie better. But again, you're just gonna keep trying and doing things right. Some pies I still would have issues with, but the idea is don't give up. Don't give up. Okay, pretty good. That was a little long. Okay, so now we're gonna start folding. I take the top pastry and kind of fold it under the bottom ones, because I found out and my mom told me this, is that if you don't do that, then the pie shell can start to shrink, and you don't want it to shrink. So you want it to be secure. So you just kind of make it like a fluted edge all along the side. Now, what you can do, and what I do quite often, is make these and don't bake them. I can freeze them just like this and then bake them later on from a frozen state. Don't thaw them first, just cook them frozen. They will take longer to bake, and I don't even know how long, just quite a bit longer. You might have to cover them with foil so they don't get too brown, but it can be done. Because sometimes what I'll do is make 3 or 4 peach pies at a time and then put them in the freezer so that we have them when company shows up or whatever. I've got a pie ready to throw in the oven. Good. Okay. Not too bad. So there's your pie. Now, my mother's always said, so this is a peach pie. So you take your fork and you're going to make indentations in P. You're going to make a P on the top of the pie. So if it was rhubarb, you would make an R, etc. But this is a P for peach. Then she always said you have to make little slits, like little V slits in the top of the pie so that the steam would escape. So I just make 8 of them. 2, 2, 2, and 2. Okay. So that's that. Now you just take, I've got a little bit of half and half, and I put a couple drops of water in it. Pastry brush, or you can use your fingers. My mom used to do that too. And then just lightly paint on the top of the pastry, but not the fluted edge, because it will get brown enough. This is to help brown the center area, but the pie edge area will definitely brown itself. And like I say, sometimes I test your peaches, test it with a fork to see if they're cooked, if they feel like they're cooked inside. And if they're not, if they feel hard and then it's getting too brown, then you just cover even just the edges with foil so that they don't brown too much. Then you take some sugar after you've put your half and half on top and sprinkle the sugar all over. Okay, so now you have P for peach, and you've got that. And then what I would do to put it in the oven, where is it? Here. Is put it on a cookie sheet, just so that if it does overflow, it doesn't make too much of a mess in your oven. So 400 at 50 minutes, 45, 50, depending on your oven. Check it, bottom rack, and 400. And happy baking, and please keep trying to make the pies, because you're gonna have failures, but keep flubbing along, and sooner or later you'll tackle it, and it's a pretty good feeling. So enjoy.